Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have the Dubai final match preview and prediction to get through, and it's an absolute blockbuster. Mirra Andreeva versus Clara Tauson. Now, not many people would have picked this final before the tournament started, but these two young superstars have come through and beaten the top players on tour and proved that they should be in the conversation for these big titles. What a match it's going to be. Both players are playing incredible tennis, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty. The head-to-head is actually 0-0. They've never played before, so it will be a really good match to see what this rivalry might potentially bring us in the future as well. Mirra Andreeva, only 17 years of age. Clara Tauson, only 22. Look, I mean, it's great to see the younger players coming through, and the WTA Tour is on fire right now. Before we do get into it, though, remember to that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Thank you to our supporters as always. Okay, let's get into it then. So first of all, I'm going to talk about Mirra Andreeva. She's played some really good tennis and has only dropped the single set, which was against Rybakina in the semi-finals, which was a really tough fought match. Rybakina played some really good tennis, but Andreeva was just a notch above. Her defense was so good in that semi-final, and that's going to be a key, I think, in this matchup with Clara Tauson. I'll expand on that later. But she beat Avanesian, Vondrousova, Stearns, and Swiatek all in straight sets. Then, of course, beat Rybakina in 3. For Clara Tauson, she's had a pretty tough route as well, I think it's fair to say. Has it been as tough? Maybe not quite, but still some very talented players en route to the final. Beat Shramkova in the first round, who has been touted, by the way. A lot of people touted her to have a really big 2025. Hasn't quite happened for her yet, but there's still time, of course, in the year. Then beat Svitolina in a third set tiebreaker, or final set tiebreaker, which was a really tough match. Got through that. Beat world number 1 Sabalenka in straight sets. What a win that was. Noskova, fellow young superstar, beaten though by the Dane Clara Tauson in straights, and then beat Muchova, who, look, I mean, there were some real highlight reel points in that match. If you haven't watched it, I recommend at least watching the highlights. What a match that was. Tauson again coming out on top, but this time in 3 sets. So she's dropped just the 2 sets. And in that match against Muchova, she just had a bit too much firepower, I think, for the Czech player, who was just struggling to keep up in terms of the pace that Tauson was able to produce from her side of the court. I think that was one of the biggest things that I noticed. She just seemed a bit rushed, Muchova. So in terms of strategically how this might play out, so both players have got pretty big serves. I would say that Andreeva's got a bigger serve than Clara Tauson in terms of actual power and speed, but Tauson's very good at being able to hit her spots. In fact, she hit 9 aces against Muchova in their semi-final, and Andreeva just a 3 against Rybakina, to be fair. She struggled a little bit on serve, 8 double faults there. Against Swiatek, though, she hit 10 aces and 3 double faults. I think the serve return dynamic, as it is with a lot of different matches, is always important. But I think what's going to be even more important is potentially the baseline exchange patterns. And I'll talk about that now. So when I talk about the baseline exchange patterns, there's a few things to bear in mind. So normally we talk about the forehand to forehand, backhand to backhand. And that's the kind of basis of the conversation. Then we branch off of that. So backhand to backhand, I think both players have pretty potent backhands, but I think Andreeva has the better backhand. When it comes to forehand, we're talking about the standard topspin forehand, cross-court exchanges. I think Tauson actually has a bigger forehand. Andreeva's forehand's very big, but I would argue that Tauson might have a bit more pop on that forehand. Where the difference lies for me with the two players in terms of baseline prowess is actually the defensive side. And I actually think Andreeva is, I mean, recency bias could be playing a part here, but I think she is up there with the Goffs, the Swiatek's, potentially as a top 3 defender on tour. Her forehand slice is one of the best that I've seen on the women's tour. Currently, anyway. I think she's one of the best forehand slices. She utilizes it quite regularly, but when she utilizes it, it's normally at the right time for her. She hits it with a lot of depth and cross court, and it just changes up the rhythm, but it's normally a very potent tool for her to stay neutral, at least in the point. And it's got her out of a lot of trouble in a lot of points, to be honest. And what's impressive to me is that she's able to hit a very deep, potent forehand slice, even when she's really rushed in that forehand corner. So she defends really well off both wings. That could potentially frustrate Clara Tauson, because Mukova, as good a player as she is, she's one of the most talented players on tour. If you had her versus Ons Jabeur, I'd watch that on repeat every single day. She's not as good a defender as Andreeva. And I think Andreeva is going to frustrate Tauson. And the amazing thing about Andreeva is that she's able to transition from defense to attack so quickly. Tauson is not as good a defender. I've been watching her, and she's not as good a defender. She's very good on the front foot and pressing you, and she will win a lot of points in this final by playing on the front foot. And if she's able to dominate the majority of the points and come out on top and not be frustrated too much by a few of the points where she comes forward and Andrew maybe picks her off at the net, for example, then she definitely has a chance. But I think she has to play an extremely high level in this final. And when I say extremely high level, I think I'm talking about hitting, she hit 9 aces in the semi-final, around that same figure, if not more. And the forehand needs to be on fire like it was in that semi-final, I think. I think that those two are going... Serve and forehand is going to be key for Tauson. For Andreeva, she has some different ways of playing, some more variety in her game. So she can almost afford not to maybe play so well in one aspect of her game, because she can make it up in another aspect, if that makes sense. Her returning is very good, though. I was watching her returning against Rebecca, and that's something that was really impressive to me, because Rebecca is one of the best servers on tour. And Andreeva made it look like it wasn't much of an issue for her. So I don't think she's going to have a massive issue with Tauson's serve. If Andreeva can be a little bit more polished on serve and a little bit cleaner with her service games than she was against Rebecca in terms of the ace to double fault return, then she's going to be in a really good spot, I think, in this final. In terms of predictions, I'm actually going to go with Andreeva, the 17-year-old, who's, by the way, the youngest player to make a Masters 1000 tournament on the women's tour, by the way, ever, from what they were saying. I'm going to go with Andreeva, and I'm going to go in straight sets, This is quite a big call. I did pick Andreeva to beat Rebecca in 3 sets, and I was right, so I'm hoping I'll be right with this one. But we'll see. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video.